Hey, welcome again. Episode 8 Sports and Shorts of Sorts. Thanks again for joining Ren City, Rennie Riquet. We're still at her, still doing our thing. As we do with each episode, we're going to start with our jersey numbers. And this is episode 8. There's some great number 8s. The first one I thought of instantly, Kobe Bryant. I know he had two numbers. Some go 8, some go 24. But growing up, coming loving basketball, Kobe Bryant had his own N64 game. NBA courtside, Kobe Bryant loved it, even though the graphics look whack compared to stuff now. But what Kobe did on the court. See, I was a Spurs fan, always a Spurs fan, but my dad liked the Lakers, and so we had some big battles, and it just with what happened with him in the helicopter and everyone involved, the whole thing was so sad. I still remember we were going to one of our Christmas celebrations. We always have it after Christmas with our friends, and I still can't believe it happened. Like, oh, such a terrible event. Like I said, for everyone involved, all those families that were affected by it. But what a big hole in the NBA, like, alumni, just having him not be here anymore. Just terrible. I still can't believe that happened. But another 8 that jumps out is on the ice. Alexander Ovechkin, the great 8. What he's done is crazy too. All the guy does is score and score and score. And it's nice that, you can put a Stanley Cup champion on his resume. It was cool to see him win. And like earlier this year, he passed Gordie Howe for second on all-time career goals, which, actually makes you think he could maybe catch Gretzky. And when people catch Gretzky for anything, it's always mind-blowing. But yeah, some other people that jump out are on the baseball diamond, and I always hear of Yogi Berra. It's an interesting name. That was obviously before my time, but he's known for just like wacky quotes, like when you come up to a fork in the road, take it. Just random stuff like that makes you think, where it's not actually saying much, but is it? And the other one that jumps out is Cal Ripken Jr., Mr. Iron Man. Can't believe that. He played consecutive 2,632 games. That is insane. True Iron Man streak. I don't know if that's ever going to get broke. People sit for all kinds of things now, so we'll see if that record ever gets touched. And another one I forgot talk about in hockey when I mentioned Alexander. Right? He's not a big name, but in the Boston area is Cam Neely. And he was in Dumb and Dumber, right? He played Seabass, so that's pretty cool. And going to the gridiron, there's some good quarterbacks at 8. There's 3 I think of. 2 are retired. Sound quite similar resumes. You have 3-time Super Bowl winning quarterback. Used to be with Fox, now he's with ESPN, Troy Aikman. And then you have, I'm not repeating myself here, but 3-time Super winning quarterback, Steve Young, who also works for ESPN. So that's pretty cool. One Cowboy and one 49er. But when you think 8, you think Lamar Jackson. He bet on himself. And people are like, what's he doing? He's not going to get the contract he wants. He's out of Baltimore. I thought he was out of Baltimore. But he signed big, and he's sticking with the Ravens. So good for him. He bet on himself and he won. Got to go with that. So good on Lamar. Oh, geez. From jerseys to playoffs. Earlier in one of my podcasts, I said the NCAA bracket is always crazy. Playoffs and professional sports have trouble living up. Well, that was wrong. The playoffs have been wild. So, yeah, it's been nothing but entertaining. Philadelphia has been done for a while. They were sitting at home, just waiting for the Celtics to beat the Hawks, which, give the Hawks credit. They fought, they came back, and they pissed people off because they made a Janet Jackson show get moved, right? Even Atlanta didn't believe the Hawks would make it to Game 6, so they had to bump Miss Jackson. Sorry, Miss Jackson, but this was for real. And all for the Hawks to lose at home to Boston. But at least Jason Tatum took the mic after the game and it did apologize to Janet, saying, sorry we had to move your show. But yeah, just so wild. But we knew the Celtics would win, and now we get that matchup we want. You know, Embiid's hurt. It sounds like the knee's pretty bad, but we know he's missing game one, but we'll see what happens. But the other rounds in the NBA, like the Nuggets and Suns both advanced. They took care of the T-Wolves and Clippers. You know, Minnesota looked like a team that still made dumb mistakes, and the one bright spot, Anthony Edwards, looked like he could be that guy. He took that shot at the end to try to tie it, hit the buzzer and went out. And then as he ran out, he threw a chair, and I saw the video. It didn't look that bad, but staff said they were hit by the chair. I thought it was kind of a money grab, but, you know, if you don't throw a chair, then it doesn't have a chance of hitting people. Maybe that's a Yogi Berra quote. I don't know. But, yeah, and the other one that hurt, like I said, the Suns advancing, they dispatched the Clippers, which was my choice. I feel dumb saying it to go to the finals, but with Kawhi being hurt, when the two games he played, like they looked like they had a chance without him. It was not the same. So Nuggets and Suns, that's a pretty good matchup they played, and started to go off with round two, and the Nuggets won. I think that'll be a really good series. But one of the other series that wrapped up, obviously Lakers and Grizzlies, that was Dylan Brooks. He was the big talk, right? He wanted LeBron and the Lakers, and after the Grizzlies had won a game in this series, he's like, I don't care. He's old. I poke bears. I don't respect them until they come and give me 40. That's what he was saying about LeBron, and that backfired because in the game that decided the series, the Lakers won by 40. So after the game, what's Dylan Brooks going to say to that? Nothing. He bounced. He left. He got fined $25,000 for not making himself available to media. So he went from the villain role saying, come at me, bro, like playing Bane. Come at me, LeBron. Like basically, kind of funny because Desmond Bane is on the team with him. Anywho, he played that villain. It came tough, and he broke out. So we'll see what happens. He's a free agent this off season, so we'll see if the Grizz pick him up. But then LeBron went online, and you know how LeBron goes on Instagram after, and he's like, "If you ever see me fighting in the forest with a grizzly bear, help the bear." And then the Lakers moved on to the second round, and they are playing. I hate to say it, the Warriors. What a series that was, though. That was clearly the best one of the first round. Back and forth play, big shots, going to a game 7, defending champs. Warriors show, you know, their championship pedigree. In the NBA, you don't usually win as a young team. You have to lose. You can't make that next step until you lose, and that's just what the Kings did. They couldn't keep up. The Warriors, it was all Steph Curry, really. He dropped 50 points in a game 7, which before then had never been done. And I guess he dropped a speech before the game that he's not a big talker. Steph Curry, when you look him up, he'll do his dances and celebration, but he's not, you don't know him as a motivator per se. But I guess reading the quotes from the players, they were ready to run through a wall for Steph, and he put him on his back and took him to the promised land. And Kevon Looney, shout out to him, the guy pounding away on the offensive glass. He don't care about points. It's all about boards and making the team win. And the Warriors just have guys like that. So I'll give them credit. I'm not a Warriors guy, but they're going to be playing LeBron in the second round. You got Curry, LeBron, Adam Silver's going excellent because, yes, he is a weird-looking fella. But, yeah, they got to be happy with that. The Knicks made it to the second round, and I thought the Cavs looked legit. But, as I said, young teams got to lose, and they had to lose. And the Knicks played great, so give it to them. But the biggest surprise of the first round, to me, you know, it's who the Knicks play in the second round. The Miami Heat. The Heat looked very weird all season. You know, barely make it in the play-in. And when they do, they have to go up against the Bucks. You know, best record in the league. And with Giannis hurt his lower back, I know that, and he was out a bit. But Jimmy Butler, he played, I don't even want to say it, because people used to say it after he retired all the time, but Jordan-esque. He put the team on his back. he made plays and he did things that were ridiculous. And, once in a while, Bam, Lowry, Vincent, or Martin would step up and they got rid of the number one seed, like I was mentioning before in another podcast, the first time since this happened to the San Antonio Spurs, my guys, when they lost to the Grizzlies. You got to give it to the Heat. Heat culture is real. But after that game, there was a lot of debate about Giannis Antetokounmpo and how he answered a question after the game. A Milwaukee reporter asked him, "Has the season been a failure?" And it just, you could see that hearing that word just sent off Giannis, and he went on a passionate, outburst, and a very, very controlled outburst, if that's a thing, like if that's not an oxymoron. But he did. He said that, and he said, like, you go to work every day, you provide for your family, you do great things. Your ultimate goal is to try to get a raise at the end of the year, right? The end of the year comes, you don't get your raise. You're a little disappointed, but your year wasn't a failure. You still made it through the year. Your family's fed, and you did what you got to do. You didn't get that promotion you wanted, but was the year a failure? And he would go on and say Michael Jordan played 15 years and won 6 championships. Was the rest of his career a failure? And the passion behind what he's saying, like 50 years, 1971 to 2001, Bucks didn't win a championship. Were we a failure? No, we were not. Those were steps. These weren't failures. They were steps to success. And I like that. It's a very positive spin. And a lot of people went at him saying, well, that's not the way it is. Like Shaq immediately after on TNT said, I was brought up where if you don't win a title, it's a failure. I played all these years in the NBA. I only have 4 rings. Each other one was a failure. So hearing stuff like that, I just don't think you're gonna come up to Giannis and tell him he's a failure. Growing up in Athens of Nigerian parents, he didn't have tons of cash. A lot of times they'd go out on the street, him and his brother, and sell watches and trinkets to help the family out. So seeing someone like that coming to the NBA, becoming an MVP, multiple time MVP, an NBA champion, and you're coming up and saying, "Are you a failure?" That's the exact response he's going to give you, and that's why so many are happy that he's the face of the league. So I love the response. I'm going to use some quotes from that outburst, and if you haven't, check it out. Go look up the Giannis Antetokounmpo. I had to flex because I said his name twice correctly, but look it up, listen to it. It's inspiring. I love it, but it's a shame to see him out in the first round, but it is what it is. And yeah, with the Bucks out, the Knicks played the Heat. They already had game 1, and Julius Randle missed the game, and Jimmy Butler tweaked his ankle a bit in the game, but the Heat won. They're up 1-0. The magic of the Heat. This last time I remember Heat and Knicks in the playoffs, there was the whole LeBron Carmelo battle, but before that, you're going like Van Gundy hanging off Alonzo Mourning's leg, and I'm expecting that to be a good, fun, chippy series. Jalen Brunson will come back, I think, even better. RJ Barrett can't play as bad as he did, and with Randall back, he'll be good. But yeah, we'll see if my second round picks go a little better than the first. I picked 76ers to go all the way, so I'm still taking them over the Celtics because I have to have one pick involved. And even though they're down 1-0, I'm going with the Knicks. And yeah, the Warriors, Lakers. I think the Warriors will win. I don't know. I'm always doubting. Well, not doubting. Let's just say never cheering for the Warriors, but I think they'll win. And like I said earlier, Nuggets over Suns. So hopefully the second round is as wild as the first. And it's weird in the NBA. We have a weird number anomaly where you have, in the second round, every seed is there. You have a first seed, second seed, third, all the way to 8. And that doesn't happen very often. It just shows you the parity of this league. And, those years of having the Warriors and Cavs in the final every year, and those times have changed, I guess. It's wide open. We'll see where it goes. But more craziness in the playoffs. We were talking about the NBA, and the NHL was like, hey, NBA, you're having a crazy playoffs? Hold my beer. Because they took it to the whole nother level. It was there's been some wild games. The Knights took care of the Jets in 5, winning 4-1. So they'll go on to play the Edmonton Oilers. That was a wild series. Like Edmonton and LA, either of them could have won, and you'd understand it, right? Like three of the games went to overtime. It really could have gone it either way. So that'll be a fun series. And then there were, like I said, crazy first round stuff. Three game sevens, and two of them happened on Sunday. And take this from the folder of I can't believe that shit happened. But Florida Panthers, right? They go into Boston in front of that raucous crowd, this historic team. Everyone's talking about most wins, most points. This team is destined for greatness. And actually, they were destined to lose in the first round. It's crazy how we had a number one team in the NBA, best record go down, and the NHL, the exact same thing. So you could see the disappointment on their faces, like people in the crowd just holding their face. It was crazy to see. And a lot of times watching sports, watching the crowd is a big part. And it was the devastation on their faces, like disappointment 101. Will you call that a failure? Some would. But if you were the Greek freak, you would call this a stepping stone to success. But wow, this stone felt like a rock to the face, I imagine. So the Panthers advance and they play, you heard it, the Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs go on to the second round, which first time since 2004. You have Knicks fans and Leafs fans rejoicing right now. Two storied franchises that haven't won in a long time. And that was a pretty good series too, Leafs and Tampa. And they won game six in Tampa to set it up. People were hoping for an original six matchup, but you're not getting it. And I had said there were three game sevens. The second one was the Avalanche and Kraken. I thought, defending champs would move on, but they got bounced. The Kraken were released, and they did what they had to do. They beat the home team in game seven. And so with that win, they go on to play the Dallas Stars, who beat Minnesota in 6 games. So that should be an interesting one too. And there's still one to finish up. The Rangers, they set up game 7 against the Devils, but we'll see what happens with that. The winner will go on to play Carolina, who knocked off the Islanders to go to the second round. So we'll see. Rangers or Devils are the last one to decide things, but we'll see what happens. Otherwise, the second round's set. And I know I picked Bruins and Oilers in the final, so I like basketball. I still have a 50% chance of getting one of them there. But yeah, lots of exciting playoffs to come. First round's gone, so not as many games on, but they're getting more and more important. So, what was that? Did anybody else feel that draft? Yeah, the NFL draft happened. Panthers have their guy, Bryce Young out of Alabama. He's supposed to be the sure thing. We'll see what he does. They also got Jonathan Mingo out of Ole Miss in the second round. So Frank Reich he's got some toys to try to get that team up in the South Division in the NFC. Texans made a surprising trade to move up to number 3, and they got their guy C.J. Stroud from Ohio State, and their other pick they traded up to get was Will Anderson from Bama, Roll Tide. Everybody was talking about all the quarterbacks in the draft. You had Young and Stroud going early. Richardson went number 4 to the Colts. That was pretty big. He's going to be their guy coming out of Florida. So we'll see what he can do. People say he's got the best upside, so we'll see what happens. And poor Will Levis, he was sitting there in the draft room the entire day because everybody said he's a sure first round pick, right? Might be real early. Didn't get picked at all. Like, I know that's crushing. Everyone's like, feel for the guy. He is still getting drafted. He got drafted the very next round to the Tennessee Titans, which could be a good fit. It's not too far from where he went to school. Titans have already given up on Malik Willis, who they just drafted last year in the third round. So I don't know. Tannehill should be the starter, but we'll see. Well, you never know in Tennessee, and like with them wanting to trade players, they do. It doesn't make sense. Like getting rid of AJ Brown last year, now maybe getting rid of Derrick Henry. I don't get it, but yeah. But with all the draft and stuff, that's finalizing the end of the offseason. But the biggest thing in the offseason happened just after recording, basically last week, was Aaron Rodgers, my guy, leaving the Packers, going to the Jets, as legendary Packers quarterbacks do per tradition. First Favre, now now Rogers. And I could have used him in this jersey mentioning, but he's known for number 12. That's what he's worn his entire career in Green Bay. But number 12 is retired by Joe Namath. I could have mentioned Joe Namath as a 12 down the road. We still might. But Aaron Rodgers, he's going to rock the 8 as he did back in Cal. So that'll be interesting. And like, yeah, we'll see what happens. The Packers got some draft picks, which they ended up using on the draft, getting Luke Musgrave at the tight end and Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa. So we'll see what they do with that. And I'm excited. Now, we can start planning our fantasy teams, kind of get that ball going. I can't wait. It's going to be so good. But from the gridiron to the footy pitch, EPL was little crazy. Man City jumped to the top of the lead with their win, and the title is in their hands. It's theirs to lose, and not much to update in the relegation battle because pretty much all the teams in the bottom lost, so not a lot of advancement there. And F1 returned, yay! Long hiatus this month, and the Azerbaijan GP. What a cool event that is. When they pan out of the city and you can see Baku, it looks so cool. I love it. And I learned a fun fact. Baku is 92 feet below sea level, so that makes it the lowest lying national capital in the world. So that's pretty cool. The race itself was kind of uneventful. Checo got his second win there, becoming the first multiple winner at Baku, as each year it has existed, someone else has won. So good on him. Verstappen got second, and Charles Leclerc got third to finish up the podium. But the biggest news of the race, because like I said, there wasn't too much going on, was Esteban Ocon coming into pit. You have to pit at least once, and he hadn't pit yet, and it was coming to the end of the race. So the F1 media people already thought this was done. They started running across the pit lane to maybe get some good shots at the end of the race. And then suddenly Ocon's whipping into pit lane and people are jumping out of the way. It was really crazy to see. I had never seen anything like that. Luckily, no one got hurt. And people, they got lucky, I guess. So next week, everybody will be packing up, moving from the Caspian Sea to Miami, Papi, for the Miami GP. So that'll be very interesting. We'll see. Always raucous in the Miami, and I know they're trying to make F1 big in the States, and they're doing what they can to do it. So, yeah, there's like so much going on. I haven't even touched baseball, other soccer leagues, but, we cover what we can. I'm not a sports ticker at the bottom of the screen. I'm a man. I got to remember that. I keep telling myself. So from the sports to the short. And this one, I didn't know where to go on these ones. Because I have these ones written up, right? I have a little bit of a Rolodex, like from the wild stuff I've done. Some might think it's tame, some wild, depending who you talk to. But for this one, we're going the time machine back to 2006. Yeah, you heard it. I've mentioned my buddy Brad, the guy who designed the sweet graphic for the podcast. We went to Europe for our fun trip, and of this part of the trip, we're gonna highlight one part, the part in Munich for Oktoberfest. That was so cool. We started our trip off by landing in Frankfurt. As you know, it's kind of in the middle of Germany, and first thing we do, we had to grab a beer in the airport. We were like fiending, I guess, a flight all the way over. We had to have a beer, even though we had beer on the plane. But anyway, land in Frankfurt. We had our drink. We're like, where are we going? Well, let's go on the train. We'll go where we gotta go. Again, nothing really planned. We go down to Munich Central. We get off, and we're like, what an amazing place. We're just, still in awe. It's a little different than Mormon, Saskatchewan. So yeah, we were just pumped, looking around, checking things out at the station, and then we're like, where are we going to stay? We didn't have a place planned. We were just going with the flow. So we started walking around. We got our big bag. We got all our shit, right? We're ready to do a 2-week trip, and we just got here. So we got lots of shit. We got to figure out what we're doing. We're walking around, going to different, hotels and stuff, and getting turned away like Joseph and Mary back in the day. The only difference was they were looking to birth the Savior, and we were looking to drink tons of beer. But we finally found a place, because some had no vacancy, some were outrageously priced. We're not going to blow our whole budget one day. But we found this Euro Youth Hostel. Looked pretty dope, right? Had vacancy. We were beyond pumped. We went. We got a private suite. Like you can have shared area. We got a private one, which was cool, so you could leave your stuff in the room and feel all right about it. And yeah, it would do. So I remember I went to sit on the bed because there's just one bed, and you sit on there and boom, right through it. It were those planks, these little thin planks that I don't know. We're not small dudes. The one of us sat, went right through it. Like, okay, good start. So, we would take turns. We had one bed, so one person would use the bed with broken slats in the middle, and the other would use the floor. It kind of worked for us. And they had a sweet little bar downstairs, which was cool, something to check out when we wanted. And yeah, first we just got some sleep, and then next day went out and got some groceries because you can't eat out all the time. It's gonna add up. So go to the market, get some buns, cheese, meats, tomatoes. I think Brad got lettuce. I don't play with lettuce, but he got lettuce, and I remember he grabbed some mustard too. And yeah, went back, had some food, got ready, went downstairs to the bar. It was always rocking. There was a very few times that bar wasn't busy. But I remember we were down there, and started chatting with some people, because that's just what you do when you're about in a youth house. You just chat, right? You mingle. When these people came from the UK, a group of Scotsmen, they had one friend who was English. And the whole time we were talking, he said, "The Scottish, we hate the English. It's fucking hatred. You see that guy? They had one English guy, right? And he's like, you see that guy? That's my best mate. And I fucking hate him." I was like, what? He was just saying the hatred. And the guy's nodding. He's like, yeah, it is what it is. And the same guy, like the drunker they got, the harder it was to understand. Some Scottish people are hard to understand their own, but when you start getting them pretty drunk, it gets a little difficult. And he damn near had me in a headlock. And I was talking footy, loved the game, loved to talk it. And he's telling me about Celtic and Rangers in Scotland. And I knew a little bit about it. They're a pretty big rival. Like, they never like playing each other. He's like, no, it's not just football. It's fucking hatred. I was like, what? But yeah, the Celtic club, very Catholic following, and the Rangers, Ranger club, very Protestant. So it's not just the normal game. It gets pretty intense. And with all the cool stories they were giving us, Brad gave them quite the show with his sweet shot. Like, shout out to Steve-O, where Brad snorted the salt, took the tequila, lemon in the eye. And the guys were like, oh my God. And it was pretty cool. Brad showed them what we were made of, Probably didn't see a little bit that well, but it worked out. But we went from there. We talked to the guys and kind of asked a bit about Oktoberfest, and went out, and it's like a big exhibition. You walk in, it's got the big sign, there's rides, there's food, there's games. We went on one ride. We weren't really there for the rides, but yeah, you go into these big tents, right? These halls or whatever, and they have the different beer outside, like Lowenbrow or whatnot, and you go in there and there's people singing, dancing on the tables, even though it was like a lot of it's in German, you don't know, you just kind of swing your stein around. The only thing, you had to be at a table for them to serve you. You couldn't just be standing or go up to a bar. Where we were, you had to be sitting for the to be served, which I feel that's a fair request on their behalf, but Brad went up to someone, or he's like, oh, give me some gnarly bratwurst. And they're like, what? And, we're doing it for the camera. Give me some gnarly bratwurst. And it kind of, it was a miss, but we got some of that video. Yeah, we got some, random videos and pics of this trip. It was a good trip. But anyway, we're out there having a good time. We end up, going elsewhere, and I forget how it all went down, but there's a guy on a bike. I'm usually a peacekeeper guy, but I have some buddies that can get a little, lippy, we'll say, or shit disturbing like, and let's just say Brad was in full shit disturbing mode at this point. This guy on this bike was saying something. Brad pushes him off the bike, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And I was just like, "Man, enough is enough." I don't know if it was because we were traveling together and we were just constantly around each other all the time, but something must have built up in me. Anyway, after Brad did this, we had a little confrontation where I did the smart thing and just booted him in the balls. I was like, fuck you, man. Like, why you do this? You know what? I'm out. And I just left him there. Got back to the hostel, and I'm like feeling incredibly guilty. Brad's a great guy, but he has navigation skills of a deaf, dumb, and blind, aging dog stuck in a tornado. Like, we wouldn't call him a compass. No offense, brother. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, I think I just killed one of my best friends. I just left him for dead out there. And, we saw people sleeping in the streets, I guess in Munich during the Oktoberfest. That's the thing people do. They'll just straight up sleep everywhere. I don't know why, but they just pass out and go on from there. I don't know how people will get robbed. Maybe it's just different culture. But people were sleeping in the streets. So at one point, I'm just like, you know what? He'll roll up next to one of those lion statues. They're all over Munich. He'll just sleep there. And I'm like, oh, I'm still not sleeping because I'm like, where the fuck is he? And then suddenly I hear the door unlocking. I'm like, oh, thank God. And the door just gets kicked open. Just shadow figure standing there. Timbers into the room like a falling redwood. Just bang. So he just falls into the room. Doesn't walk in. He literally fell into the room. And I'm just like, yes, he's safe. I can go to bed now. I know, like, my buddy's around. And I can hear him, like, messing around the fridge. I'm like, oh, he's probably hungry. Eyes are still closed. Boo. I'm like, what? What is this? He took his hand in the mustard. This guy is completely fucking drunk. Took his hand in the mustard, started like wiping it on my face while I was sleeping. I'm like, what are you doing? And all of a sudden I'm up. We're confronting each other again. He's slurring. And all of a sudden he throws a punch, or I threw the punch. I don't know. It's like a Waco, Texas thing. Who went first? The AFT or the people? Who took the first shot? I don't remember, but regardless, we started fighting. And we're just kind of scruffing around there. I don't want to hit him. I'm not one that want to punch one of my best friends in the face, but he hit me, right? So I just started choking the shit out of him, like, why you little, Homer Simpson style. And we had a little scuffle. We stopped, said fuck it, went to bed. Next morning, room's just kind of trashed, and I got a black eye. Brad's talking like a 40-year smoker, but it was it was a crazy night. The whole thing, it really opened us up to Oktoberfest. It got a big scuffle out of our system, I don't know. The rest of the trip we never threw down, so it must have been something in us we had to get out. But it was a good time and part of a crazier trip, which you guys will hear more about as we dive more into it. But thanks for coming along. Keep watching the playoffs. They're going to be crazy. Don't forget about baseball. Well, hopefully we can fit that in next time. We got the Canelo fight next week, so that's pretty big. Good times, guys. Things are warming up outside, and sports are wilding out. So it's a good time. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for coming. Episode 8's in the books. Sports and shorts of sorts. Ren City out.